Okay, so this is a video to show how someone might install and configure a GreaseWeazle into a WinUAE Retro Amiga emulator, right? So the GreaseWeazle drive uh, can be plugged into any PC. We're going to use a Windows PC, and you can run the WinUAE emulator and plug in the GreaseWeazle drive and have it act as a native floppy disk drive on your WinUAE emulator. There's a lot of other things you can do with it, but the purpose of this video is to demonstrate that. So we're going to go ahead and go get the necessary plugin for WinUAE. So this video does assume you have WinUAE installed and configured, and you will just be adding the support for the GreaseWeazle. So we're going to go to the GreaseWeazle, and we're going to go to Software. Over here, we're going to see the Floppy Bridge plugin by Rob Smith, and this is WinUAE support. Allows the drive to act as a retro double density, high density drive in Amiga emulation. So we're going to go here, drawbridge, aka Arduino, Amiga, floppy disk drive, disk reader writer. So now I'm just going to agree to this license because I've done this once before, but you should always read anything you're going to agree. Just what I think. So Floppy Bridge version 1.4 is the latest one as of April 2023. So you may find that it's a newer version when you do this, but that's what it is as of this recording. So it's going to download a zip archive, and the zip archive we're just going to open very simply from Chrome. And we see the files, but they're still in the zip archive, so we're going to extract them all. This is on Windows 11, same process pretty much for most versions of Windows. And we're going to go ahead and extract them all to the downloads folder. That's fine for now. Okay, so now we have the files here. And we're going to go ahead and go to where they need to go. Now you will need to find where the WinUAE was installed on your computer, but usually on Windows it's going to be in the program files WinUAE folder, and then plugins, and there you can see the files I've already installed are right there. So basically you would just drag and drop those files there and copy them into the plugins folder in your WinUAE folder. This is an important step. This must be done before you can use the GreaseWeazle in WinUAE. So once you've done that, make sure if you are running WinUAE that you do restart WinUAE. So we're going to go ahead and start up WinUAE. And we're going to take a configuration. We're going to grab an Amiga 4000. And we're going to go to the floppy drives. The ROM for this Amiga 4000 is Kickstart ROM 3.1. And we're going to go to the floppy drives. And here we see DF0. WinUAE supports 4 floppy disk drives simultaneously. So we are going to configure 4 floppy disk drives since I have 4 GreaseWeazle drives connected. So first thing we're going to do is go to configure floppy bridge. Now if this option is not available, that means you did not copy the files to the right location, the plugin files to the correct location, or you did not restart your WinUAE emulator. Now this is just empty, but we're going to go ahead and create our drive. So I'm going to make this drive 1, and we're going to select GreaseWeazle because that's what we're using. And we're going to uncheck auto detect. The reason we're going to uncheck auto detect is because auto detect is great if you have just one drive. It's just going to figure out whatever port it's in and use it. But since we have 4 drives, we're going to have a one-to-one hardware to port specification. So drive 1 is on COM port 3. That way we always know that. That way I always know that that specific drive that's plugged into COM port 3 is going to be drive 1, aka DF0. Now we can change the mode here, and sometimes this will be necessary. Like if you're doing some copyrighted games or something, running them, and you're having trouble running them, you might be able to go in here and change the mode to use more compatible as an option. We're going to go ahead and just leave it at normal. If you don't use copyrighted discs at all and you just want things to move faster, you can go in here and select turbo. Again, this smart speed will dynamically switch on the turbo, and again, that may break copy protection on various like games and other disks that use that feature. So we're going to leave the disk type in auto. In other words, if we put in a double density disk, it will recognize it as double density, and if we put in an HD disk, it will recognize it as a high density. If you know you're going to always use double density, it's probably advisable just to select double density here, because in that case, it's easier to work with. It does not have to try to read the first track of the disk and figure out if it's double density or high density. I'm going to leave it on auto because I like to use high density disks, but I have a lot of retro disks that would be mostly on double density. And it's always going to be configured with A if you got the drive from us. I'm going to do drive 2. Again, we're going to take auto detect off and we're going to choose COM9. We're going to progressively go from 3 to 12. And we're going to leave all these the same as we did before. Drive 3. Drive 4. Okay, so we've configured all 4 drives. We've created them in the system. Now we can specify our drives. We're going to go ahead and specify these drives in the emulator. You will need to specify them. Once they're defined in the GreaseWeazle tool plugin, you still need to define them in the emulator, how you want to use it. All right. And we're going to go ahead and start this. I'm going to insert some disks. They're just the Windows, or the Amiga OS 3.1 disks. Alright, we got the storage disk. We got the workbench disk. We got the fonts disk. Oh, one of them is an empty disk. Whoops. That's okay. I didn't label it, so. And there it is. There we have it. So we have access to the disks. Now, one fun part. I'm going to go ahead and load up the Amiga 500 instead. Going to reset. And we're going to, this ROM is going to be Kickstart 1.3. Floppy drives are defined. I'm going to take out those disks that I put in there. And I'm going to run a copyrighted game that I have on floppy disk. I'm going to select drive 1 and drive 2. I'm going to go to my game ports. And just for this demonstration, we're going to use cursor keys, because that will be easy to. That will be easy. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and start this up. But I'm going to first put my 2 disks, because this game is on 2 disks. I'm going to put my 2 disks in the first 2 drives. Since I have 4 GreaseWeazle drives, and this game has 2 disks, I can install both disks in the first 2 drives, and I will not need to swap disks at all. So here we go. We're loading a game called Chaos Engine, right? From a Bitmap Brothers game. It does not require AGA hardware. It runs on standard Amiga, so that's why I loaded the Amiga 500 configuration into WinUAE. There we have it. Copyrighted game loads and plays. You guys have a great day, and thank you for watching.